What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Real Fans FC. And today we're going to be talking about the glorious event that is the World Cup. And I know technically or traditionally we do more CONCACAF content, but we want to start spreading out and talking about the World Cup as a whole. With this video, we're going to be talking about the dark horses. So Will and I are both going to be giving two dark horse teams that we think could potentially make a run. If we go by the criteria of dark horse, it's a team that, let's say, has a really good chance of making it out of the group. Maybe not guaranteed, but you feel pretty confident that they are. But not only just that, but they can make a run, maybe win 2 or 3 games as they approach the knockout round, potentially making a semifinal. I would say my criteria is at least a quarterfinal, because at that point we're talking about, I believe, 6 games, because then they would have to win 2 knockouts to get them into the quarterfinal race. So I will say that's a pretty good dark horse run. But Will, I will kick it off to you first. What is the first team that you have as your dark horse? And I will provide a rebuttal if I disagree.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that. Dude, whenever you gave me this topic, Julian, and we were looking at it, there was a lot of different options. Obviously, with the expanded format, 48 teams, you're going to have a lot more different teams in this tournament, a lot of different faces, a lot of new teams that are going to be able to kind of provide something different that we haven't seen in previous tournaments. So it was interesting, looking through it. Obviously, kind of I think some of the home run answers are like an Ecuador. People obviously Morocco, whether or not if you think they're a dark horse or whatever, Senegal, teams like that. But I'm gonna keep it honest, dude. I gotta keep it in CONMEBOL. I'm gonna keep it over here in the Americas, and I'm gonna go with Paraguay. This is a team that not only has a favorable draw with the United States, Australia, and potentially that pot 14 being a Turkey or a Slovakia as well, but I just feel like this is a draw that's kind of soothing for the Paraguayans. I think, these guys, I think they're going to be licking their chops, dude. So many Americans we already saw kind of went viral over after the World Cup draw for celebrating it and looking happy, But I think the Paraguayans feel the exact same way. I don't think they have any different sentiment when it comes into this World Cup. I think they're also feeling quite confident and they're feeling good about the draw. They like it, and Paraguay is also one of those teams. They're going to have home field advantage, obviously, you know, with a little bit more of a home settlement here within the United States. Paraguayans are going to travel well. We saw even in the 2010 World Cup, they did it well in South Africa. Um, yeah, I just feel like this is a team that's going to have the crowd, they're going to have the backing, and then more importantly, to make a good run, dude. And you look at most underdog fairy tale stories, whether it's a 2010 Ghana, 2022 Morocco, or even like a Costa Rica 2014, a lot of those teams and all of those teams had good defenses. They had teams that knew how to shut down, they knew how to lock down, and they knew how to not let anybody inside. I mean, I'm talking about, dude, this was like a police station 24/7. Like these guys had armed guards everywhere you go on the field. So
Yeah.
I will say Paraguay is like that. You look at a Gustavo Gomez, you look at obviously the midfield with forgetting his name right now, the guy that made over the move to Brighton, your Inter Miami boy.
Diego
So
Gomez.
they're Diego Gomez. Yeah, yeah. So there's plenty of guys on this field. Obviously, I look at Omar Alderete. I mean, that guy's trying to catch a field on the body. He's trying to catch a body on the field. So there's a lot of defensive names on this team. They're sound. I think Gustavo Alfaro's got these guys set. I think this is a team, looking at the draw ahead, if they can crack first place or if they could even sneak a second place, I think it's a favorable draw. I saw from there they would potentially play, like if I wasn't wrong, the runners up a Group B, so that's Canada's group. There's a lot of different potentials, So I will say I genuinely just do feel that Paraguay, this is a team that can make some noise. I will say quarterfinals is the ceiling for this team. I think even around a 16 could be potentially pushing it. But I do see this team under Gustavo Alfaro being able to lock down and frustrate. I mean, really, really frustrate some teams. So this is, like I said, this is a team to keep an eye out for, and one of my dark horses.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you, honestly, because this team has everything built to actually be, like you said, a true competitor. Because they were, if you look back at the previous dark horses, like you said, they were super defensively solid, and then they could kill you in transition. That's been the formula outside of, I would say, the 2018 Croatia team, where yes, they were very solid defensively, but they weren't afraid to go head to head with. They would they went after teams and they almost won the World Cup, obviously making it to the finals, probably the biggest dark horse run that I can at least think of. But yeah, I mean, I this Paraguay team, when you look at them, and they've proven it over qualifying that they can be defensively solid. And when it comes down to it, they have enough attacking talent in the front to score goals when needed. And that's what I see happening here. Now, they have, like, when we've seen post World Cup qualifying in some of these friendlies that haven't seemed as defensively solid, but it's also hard to take away so much from these friendlies because there's a lot more experimenting that's going on. So, not really sure what to expect there, but I agree with you. It's not a bad pick. My only concern is I don't know how deep they can make it in a knockout round. Quite honestly, though, who would have picked Costa Rica to do that, or Ghana in 2010, or South Korea in 2002? A lot of people be like, "Yeah, can they make it to a semifinal?" No, but that's what makes them a dark horse. So yeah, I agree with yours a lot. So I will go over to my next one, or mine pick. My first pick is, I'm gonna keep it home here, man. I'm gonna go with the United States. I know it's kind of crazy to think, but if I was looking
Okay.
at it,
Okay.
one of the biggest concerns when it comes to the USA is, are they going to have home fans, right? I think considering the draw that they had, it seems pretty favorable that they're going to have majority of fans at those specific stadiums. You have Australia and Seattle. Most likely it's going to be a USA crowd. You have then the next two games are going to be in SoFi in Los Angeles against Paraguay and, like you said, whether it's Turkey or whoever it be. I like the odds that they're going to have a pretty strong home field advantage there. And because of that, it should help them a lot in terms of, like, especially in those tough to break down type of games where you can have the crowd on your side, you can feel super motivated to get that goal. And I think they have a good balance as well. And I've really liked what I've seen from them over the past 4 months post Gold Cup, that the talent that they went up against, they've looked really good. I look at that Uruguay game, for example, as a pretty statement win. Granted, like, that's going to be a completely different USA team, and also Uruguay was missing some of their top players, but they also had a lot of, like, of their star players and what would be their starting 11 on that team. And I look at this USA team, and I think for the first time in a long time that they actually seem to have some really good momentum, and people are feeling pretty good about this team. Match that up with them playing at home in a place that they're comfortable with, stadiums that they're used to. I think they can go on a pretty good run because, quite honestly, I see them. They have a really good chance to win the group, which would line them up to eventually get some pretty favorable matchups in the knockout rounds. I think it can work out pretty well for USA, and I'm this. Yeah, I mean, we see it all the time with these hometown or these home host nations go pretty far, except for Qatar 2022. But I think it's one of those years where host nation might actually make a difference. And if we look back to 2022 with the USA team, they honestly performed a little better than I expected. And I think this team is better than where they were in 2022. And they played arguably a tougher group and tougher knockout round. So, yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. I'll just to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
I have to say, and I'll agree. I do agree with you and disagree in both aspects of looking at both sides of the table. Now, to agree with you, and I'll just get it out of the way. I agree with you, Julian. This is a better team. This is a more stacked team. This team has more depth. In that 2022 roster, they were bringing guys like Christian Roldan, and Jesus Ferreira and Jordan Morris off the bench.
Jack
Now it's
Moore.
like they're bringing Ricardo Pepe. Yeah, I mean, dude, Shaq Moore. I mean, it's atrocious the type of depth they had. But now they're bringing a hot informed Ricardo Pepe. They're bringing a Brendan Aronson, potentially a Gio Reyna off the bench, guys like that. So I think this is way more of a complete team, a complete roster, and a more in-depth roster compared to 2022. So yes, I agree. They definitely can make a run. And dude, this is way more of a favorable group, and we talked about it a lot with the United States. There is no, juggernaut team. They don't have to worry about an England. They don't have to worry about going against a Germany, a Portugal, any of those guys right away in the group stage. So that is a favorable draw for the States. Now, where I disagree a little bit, though, in the aspect of making a deeper run, I just feel like the United States. We talked about the juggernaut teams. They not to say that they don't, come up in the moment, but they almost feel a little bit for me opposite to Mexico. Mexico at times plays down to opponents, but then when they go against higher level opposition, it seems like that level kind of raises slightly a little bit more. They have a little bit more of a chip on their shoulder. With the United States, it just seems that, at times when we see in these bigger tournaments, I mean, Copa America, and with all due respect, I love my team, but we're not a juggernaut team, Panama and Uruguay, but still they couldn't get the job done there. I just look at these pressure moments. This is still a young group. The core of these guys are still under 25 years old. Obviously your main guys being a Pulisic, a McKennie, a Tim Weah, and a Tyler Adams. But it is going to be the pressure is on, and not only the United States has been talking about this World Cup being the host nation and the expectations and the growth and things like that. But I'll be real with you, dude. I mean, guys from Landon Donovan, from other pundits like Stu Holden and Alexi Lawless, and all these guys over Fox Sports, they have made this to be the biggest World Cup in the history of the United States. So I think the pressure is not only going to double down on a lot of these guys, but I think it's going to get to a lot of them, dude. I could genuinely see my personal aspect. And it obviously does depend on the matchup. It is going to depend on the team that they go against. But if the USA matches, like in Italy in the round of 32, or if they go up against, I'm going to keep it quite real. If they go up against Uruguay again, like in a round of 32 or 16 or something like that, one of those types of high level proficient teams that is going to be physical. And obviously those are teams that at their moment aren't at the best right now, but they're going to bring it to the table when that game matters. So I could just see the U.S. falling there. And honestly, I could see them getting knocked out in a 32 or a round of 16.
Interesting. Yeah. My only thing is, I will say, and we'll move on, is like, I see the USA going after it no matter who the opponent is. I think they're going to feel that they have enough talent and the rally behind them to go after the game. And, it could be a recipe for disaster. It could be like, okay, man, then you lose 3-0. But they just seem pretty balanced right now, a little bit more attacking friendly than if you look at like a Paraguay, for example, that you brought up earlier. So that because of that, I feel like this is a tournament where you're going to have to go after games more often because it's a lot more teams. But anyways, well, give me your second team. What is the other dark horse team that you have that could potentially make a quarter semifinal run?
Yeah, yeah. This was a tough one, dude. Like I said, like earlier, we were talking about earlier, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I just look at the caliber of teams, and it seems like there's a lot of different teams. It genuinely seems like dark horses are going to go against dark horses in the round of 32 and the round of 16. So they're going to be kind of eating each other alive a little bit, unfortunately, in that aspect. But I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna hop on the other side of the pond. I was gonna say the other one because I'm debating between these two, but I'm gonna keep it real, dude. And you might be like, Will, what the hell? But I'm gonna keep it with Algeria. Uh, I
Wow,
genuinely see, obviously we're in
that's a pull.
that. I know it's a little bit of a howler. It's a little interesting one. Algeria's got a tough group. Well, obviously, right now, dude, while you and me are recording this video, Julian, AFCON's going on. I've been keeping up a little bit, watching a lot of the teams there, trying my best to, obviously, and I've been able to see Algeria play. I mean, Riyad Mahrez, at this moment we're speaking, he's already got 3 goals in the tournament. Algeria's only played 2 games. He's on fire, dude. The rest of this team, obviously, when you go to the back with Zidane, his son's in the goalkeeping net. Borush, there's other guys on the field. This is a team, and then Goudi as well, who's out injured this tournament, the Marseille 9, So this is an Algerian team. We talked about the home base, the home crowd, things like that. The North African sides, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt, Morocco, they're going to show up, dude. And I fully expect the majority of the games that they're going to be playing is going to be pretty much sold out crowds in their favor. Other than like if it's a host nation or if it's like a Colombia or Argentina, things like that, it'll be a little bit different. But that Algeria versus Austria game is going to be sold out for Algerians. Let's just be truthfully honest, dude. They're going to make the
Where's
drive,
that at?
they're going to make the flight, the boat, whatever. If I'm not wrong, it's in Dallas, Texas. But dude, I didn't think this summer, I didn't think Esperance de Tunis would have any fans, and they're selling out crowds. They're selling out games against Chelsea and against Flamengo and teams like that. So I have high hopes. this Algerian team, I think the fans are going to be able to get behind them. I think this is also a tournament team, dude. I look at this as a team that won AFCON a couple years ago. Obviously, they do well when they are in a little bit more of a home crowd. They have the backing with them. And they're also, dude, we were talking about physical teams. I think this is a team that I genuinely could see going toe to toe. I mean, last time they were at a World Cup was 2014, and they made a round of 16, but barely lost to eventual champions Germany. That was, I mean, literally, that was the best team in the world at that moment. So I could see this team, like I said, it all depends on the draw. It all depends on where they land, because obviously if they get third place in their group and they have to go against, a first place team like a Spain potentially, or even like
Who is their group, by the way?
Portugal or a team like that. So they're with Argentina, Jordan, Austria, and Algeria. So it's a favorable draw. I don't look at that and I don't think to myself, oh my goodness, I don't think they can do it. It's not plausible. I think this is a plausible draw. So like I said, it all does really depend on that round of 32. It's going to depend on the path for Algeria. But kind of like in very similar, I'm going off of vibes. I'm going to keep it real. I obviously am going off of the players and the tactics and Pekovic and things like that, what he's done with the team. But I'm a big vibes guy, man. Like I look at 2022 Morocco, and that team just had everything rolling with them. They had the smooth sail, and and it just seemed like that Moroccan team never took a wrong step. They were always going face forward and moving ahead. So I see the same thing with this Algerian team. They're dangerous. Like I said, they're obviously a counter-attacking team that you can't sleep on, but they're also a team that they're going to have a lot of high press up ahead. They're really, really just going to, I think they're going to play beautiful ball FC, man. Like, I think it's going to be good to see. I think it's going to be high press, high attack. And yeah, I think this is a team that can cause some noise.
Hey man, I like the pick. I would have not guessed that. But hey, I like it. I like your rationale. I'm not going to rebuttal it because, quite honestly, I don't know enough about Algeria too. But I like the pick. It was a pretty solid pick. I'm gonna go with my second one, and this one you might like. And this one, I actually predict is going to have an not identical, but a very similar run to Croatia. I'm talking about like a dark horse. They gonna make it to the final.
Panama.
Nope.
Panama.
It is going to be Norway. I got Norway going all the way. Ooh. I think if you look at this Norway team is just firing on all cylinders. I look at that World Cup qualifying run that they have, and they just beat the brakes off of everybody. They made Italy look like North Macedonia. Like, they're the reason why Italy is even in this playoff position as it is right now. And the way that Holland's playing, the way that Sorloth, Oscar Bob, the bench, like freaking, and they haven't even had Odegaard recently. So like this team is just getting better and better. They're young, they're hungry. The first time they're making the World Cup in what, 28 years, 25 years, something like that, since 98. This team is just rolling so hot right now. And this is one of the scariest teams that you want to face. I don't care who you are. This is a team you just do not want to run into. Because at any moment, it feels like they can snap and turn on you and score a goal. And I don't know. It's just when a team's rolling in there that hot, I'm feeling pretty confident that, and I think they have a ton of belief as well. I mean, and if you even look at their players, like Berg, like playing at Fulham, like consistently playing, looking good. Like I said, I mentioned sort of, they had the goalkeeper who plays at Sevilla. They're just so deep everywhere you look, and they're just such a talented team. And I think a lot of people are going to underestimate them. I'm borderline at the point where I'm like, I kind of want to throw cash at them, because I just feel like at any moment they will go after anybody and they can compete with anybody and no one's talking. I look at this Norway team just on all sides of the ball. It feels like they don't have any weaknesses, or at least they have solid players. No like glaring weaknesses. So yeah, I got Norway going on a crazy run. I got them. To me, I see them as the new Croatia. I mean, we look at Croatia as their aging team that's aging out. I don't necessarily anticipate them to have a great World Cup run this tournament, But if you look at this Norway team, they're young, they have energy, they can go after teams. Like they're immensely talented, and then they have depth off the bench on top of that. This might be the scariest Norway team we've ever seen. And look, I don't know much about Norway football history, but I imagine this has to be like a top team up there in that category. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah. I like the shout, dude. I like the shout. Not much of a rebuttal. I can't say, dude, because I agree. I like that. Obviously, we're keeping this at 2 each, dude. But I like that one. If I'm being quite honest, dude, that kind of, like you said, literally, dude, it escaped my mind. I look at Norway. Now, to be fair, the only little thing that I could see defeating that hypothesis of them making a dark horse run, I'm gonna be real, dude, it's their group. That group is, oh my god, dude. That, you want to talk about picante, hot sauce? I'm talking about, get your buffalo sauce, get your hot sauce, mix it together, get some salt, get some paprika in there, man. Like, dude, it's a spicy group. I think Senegal is going to match up well with them, and that's the thing, dude. If Senegal, France, Norway, and then obviously that intercontinental spot, who, even if it's Iraq, I don't think Iraq just goes in there and lays down the sword. I don't think they're going to go in there walking in thinking they have no chance. Obviously, it's going to be hard, but still, this is a picante group, man. This is a juicy group.
All right.
That's the only thing I could see with Norway is, I'm going to be real. I could see them getting, maybe, dude, and obviously this sucks to say, maybe Udegaard picks up an injury against France. Maybe, Holland has maybe he just has a horrible tournament and a horrible game against a Koulibaly, from Senegal. So I could really see them kind of getting damaged in the group stage. Like I said, I could see them really doing well, or I could see it going the complete opposite and they just implode and explode everywhere.
Dude, I'm not scared. I'm gonna call it right now. They're winning the damn group. They're winning it.
Wow.
I think I have this weird feeling that France is going to have a bad tournament. I don't know why I feel that way. I just feel like France has progressively not gotten worse. They've kind of dropped a little bit. Like, obviously they are still a contender to win the whole thing. But like, I look at the Euros and they seemed like a fraction of themselves compared to a Spain, for example. Yeah. Or it felt like that 2022 World Cup kind of took a hit on them. Where obviously they're still a top team, don't get me wrong, and they're still playing well, but they're just not playing at a immensely elite level like you expect them to play, which is it. And I'm holding France to another standard, because obviously some people are gonna be like, what do you mean? Like, but it's like, from what we've seen this last Euros, I wasn't really inspired by this team. I just feel like Norway, man, they're going to upset them. I just feel like France, for whatever reason, is going to, and it may not even be a win. Like France, I predict that game going a draw, and then they get off maybe on goal difference or whatever it is. Because look, at the end of the day, it's inevitable. One of these groups, the big dog is going to get sent away. Last World Cup cycle, it was Germany. Freaking Japan won that group, and everybody had Japan third place. Morocco won did Morocco win that group? Actually, can't remember.
They did.
They did win that group.
Did win their group.
No one had them winning that group, and Croatia fell down to second. So one of the big dogs to me is going to fall. I think it's going to be France. Obviously, France still advances, but I don't know if they win the group. That's my pick to somebody getting upset. But anyways, that was our dark horses for the 2026 World Cup. We're going to do more World Cup content as we approach the glorious tournament. So if you want to see more content just like this, please feel free to subscribe to the content. Will, any final thoughts?
No, man, like you said, guys, please tap in, lock in, dial in. Julian and me have a lot of big content coming up ahead. Like you said, the glorious, the beautiful, the almighty 2026 World Cup is coming up ahead, dude, and we are excited And dude, yeah, we got a lot of big content ahead of us, man. So I'm ready.
All right. Peace out, everybody. See you guys in the next video.